What's up, beautiful people, and welcome back to another sexy comic book review video. It is I, your world's greatest your world's greatest detective, your steward of Gondor, your genius billionaire playboy, basic YouTuber philanthropist, SuperCliff. And would you kindly hit that like and subscribe? My God, what is wrong with me? Hit that like and subscribe button, for every little bit helps in this YouTube world. And today, folks, we are covering Future State Harley Quinn, issue number 1. Written by Stephanie Phillips and drawn by Simone Di Meo. Let's do this. And our story begins in the future. Following DC's death metal event, where we are given a glimpse, a taste if you will, of a potential DC universe, where we are then given an analysis page of sorts featuring Harley Quinn, providing us the reader with the what you need to knows of Harley Quinn. Now, generally speaking, most comic book readers are aware of Harley Quinn's backstory, her full name being Harleen Quinzel, ex-psychologist, ex-girlfriend to the Joker, took a bath in toxic waste. But since Future State is a sort of initiative to draw in new readers, these types of recaps will be inserted. Anyways, the more you know. As the comic continues, we see a group of peacekeepers attempting to capture Harley. And though Quinn is able to fend off her attackers, she eventually succumbs to capture as a squad of mech peacekeepers show up to get the job done. And during this action scene, we are given this recap of Harley Quinn by an unknown individual, who, as we see in the present following Harley's capture, is revealed to be Dr. Jonathan Crane, aka the infamous Batman villain known as the Scarecrow. Except here's the thing, Crane is no longer the Scarecrow, as he later informs us and Harley that he's been reformed. And what's interesting here is that we are seeing Crane essentially dissect Harley Quinn's status quo, because in case anyone has forgotten, Crane prior to becoming the Scarecrow was at one time a highly renowned psychologist. And here he's telling Harley that she's basically a character without a purpose, because she's no longer with the Joker in both Future State and currently in her status quo today. And if we're to look at this from a meta sense, a lot of the time people today, both writers and readers, will ask the question, hey, who is Harley Quinn without the Joker? What is it that she wants to be known as besides being the Joker's sidekick or the Joker's ex? And it's here where Crane tells Harley that she's just a person who's scared. But Crane then tells her that he understands, because before the Magistrate took over Gotham, Crane felt scared as well, and that he used this mask, the Scarecrow persona, to shield himself of sorts from the people of Gotham. But thanks to the Magistrate, they've helped Crane to see the error of his ways. Therefore, because Crane is a skilled psychologist, he's basically working alongside the Magistrate in taking down Gotham's villains, and any whom are caught wearing a mask. And though Harley responds to Crane with a smartass answer, Crane in response informs her that the only reason as to why she's here is purely due to her knowledge of Gotham, and because of her past experience in being a psychologist. So as a means of making Harley Quinn useful, Crane brings up a file of Lazal Valentine, aka Professor Pig, who is a freak, by the way. Textbook schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive, delusional, but most of all, dangerous. And according to his current status, many of the Magistrate peacekeepers have lost many of their officers from Pig's insanity. Like basically, if we're being real, Professor Pig is essentially Gotham's Buffalo Bill mixed with the Red Dragon. Just insert a pig mask and yeah. And yes, by the way, Harley Quinn in this comic is playing the identical role to that of Hannibal Lecter. Just like with Hannibal, the more that Harley helps Crane, the closer she'll get in becoming free, or at the very least, much more comfortable in jail. So when it comes to capturing Professor Pig, Harley explains to Crane that Pig is proud of his work, and every time Crane sends officers to catch Pig, they always end up missing until they show up later on, under Professor Pig's sadistic influence. Now the reason this keeps happening, besides the fact that the peacekeepers are apparently totally incompetent, is because of Pig's pride towards his experimentation on his victims. Therefore, he wants to showcase to his quote-unquote audience his hard work. And from Professor Pig's perspective, rather than seeing himself as a butcher, he sees himself as an artist. Overall, Harley Quinn diagnoses Pig as an individual who suffers from deep-rooted self-loathing, a person who needs to reach a sense of perfection. So it's with that where Quinn tells Crane that his officers need to recreate Pig's work and have it plastered all over Gotham, with it being credited by Professor Pig himself. Essentially, this will draw Pig out into the spotlight, as the villain will perceive this work of art as a form of blasphemy. And whilst Harley Quinn is explaining the strategy to Crane as a voiceover of sorts, we witness the peacekeepers capturing Professor Pig due to Harley Quinn's strategy. As a result of the successful apparition of Professor Pig, Crane's like, alright, and orders that Harley's shackles be released. Harley demands that she be given back her clothes. However, Crane is willing to comply with Harley's request But before he does so, he informs Harley that their next target is Garfield Lynns, aka Firefly, the OG Firefly. Side note, why are there two Firefly characters? I mean, I'm not hating, but really, who gives a shit, DC? Like, did you have to change that part? I digress. But yeah, Harley Quinn's next target is Garfield Lynns' Firefly, a notorious arsonist who flies around Gotham wearing a Firefly armored suit. And according to Crane, this troublemaker has managed to elude the police for months, causing millions of dollars in property damage. But have no fear, Dr. Crane, because Harley Quinn has a way. Check it. You see, everyone in the DC universe knows Firefly's real identity, since all the places he's burned in the past carry a certain sentimental connection. And so Harley suggests that Crane and his peacekeepers give Firefly a target. That target being the St. Evangelina Orphanage, a place growing up Garfield despised with a fiery passion. Pun. And fortunately, it seems Harley's plan has once more proven to be successful, as we watch and witness Firefly showing up to the reopening of the orphanage, only to be ambushed by the Magistrate's peacekeepers. Now, this is where we get some background information in regards to Crane, because once Firefly is moved into one of the transport trucks, one of the peacekeepers is having a simple chat with Crane, telling the doctor that they should be hyped since they were able to capture Firefly, even though he's no Black Mask. And it's here where Crane immediately tells the officer to shut up. Don't say that name, bro. Basically, Black Mask is the he who shall not be named. So now it gets us wondering, like, oh my god, what did Black Mask do? Later on, Crane checks in with Harley, telling her that her plan worked. With Harley now one step closer towards freedom, Crane informs her that both Professor Pig and Firefly were just round one, for the real fight is about to begin, as Crane tells Harley that they've barely had the appetizers, and now they're heading straight towards the entree. Later that night, we check in elsewhere in Gotham, where a guy wearing the iconic Black Mask is robbing a local convenience store. But clearly this is not the true Black Mask, aka Roman Sanias, because clearly this is just a grunt punk with little to no experience in pulling off a small-time robbery, which amounts to less than $200. In the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. But suddenly, as the robber is making his getaway, the dude is knocked out cold, to where we later pick up with him slowly waking up in a dark warehouse, essentially not your go-to place, and finding yourself tied up upside down in. And here, this robber is surrounded by a room full of criminals wearing the Black Mask. And check out how these dudes are standing, as if they're almost as if they're part of some cult of sorts. And while this guy is upside down, he is confronted by the real Black Mask, as he reminds this guy that they are not clowns. And without mercy, Black Mask shoots the guy straight in the head. Boom, headshot. Black Mask turns around and he basically reiterates to his gang that they will never forget the reason as to why they wear the mask. And that, my friends, was Future State Harley Quinn issue number 1. And my god, was this amazing. Oh, real talk. Just because I haven't yet read the Yara Flor Wonder Woman book, in my opinion at the moment, Future State Harley Quinn is without a doubt one of the best books in the Future State lineup thus far. Having Harley Quinn act as an assistant to a rehabilitated Scarecrow is fantastic. I'm really curious as to why Crane has such a deep, resounding hatred for Black Mask. Like I said prior, what did he do to him? My god. Also, in regards to Harley Quinn, this is another fantastic way in using Harley Quinn in regards to her character and direction. Yes, Harley Quinn is that fourth wall breaker of a character, but it's nice seeing Harley Quinn doing shit that matters, rather than just her being the Deadpool, if you will, of the DC universe. I hope moving forward that Stephanie Phillips, who will also be writing the Harley Quinn solo book for the upcoming Infinite Frontier initiative, will continue this concept of Harley Quinn helping certain governmental officials and tracking Gotham-centric supervillains. It's too good of an idea to not do so. Here's hoping. Black Mask being set up as the final boss for the story is really dope, and it's funny because, Black Mask is really only liked by readers because of his dope-looking mask, and so I appreciate DC trying to push forward more of Black Mask into stories, because dude's the kingpin of Gotham. Yeah, as a character, he's no Wilson Fisk, but he should have more of a presence due to his connections and being sort of the criminal ringleader. But lastly, let's talk about the art. Yo, Simone Di Meo, good job. Like 100%, this art looks so much like an anime. Seeing Gotham covered with neon lights, futuristic guns, and wide shots of long windows reflecting the nightlife, it's just great. And though I wouldn't really particularly want this style in my Superman book or a Wonder Woman book, this Future State Gotham neon format definitely fits for a Gotham Harley Quinn book. So, good job. Future State Harley Quinn issue number 1 gets a 9.5 out of 10. Giggity goo.